guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to my channel. So we're doing a little bit of a blue moment today, and that is in honor of the Blue Blood palette. My husband was super awesome because he's off today. Today's Friday when I'm filming this, and he went to the Morphe store in my city and picked me up the Blue Blood palette as soon as the doors opened. And he got me the Nudes Volume 2, which I've been kind of having my eye on, so I'm glad I got that. And he got me one of the lip scrubs. This one is the Blue Freeze one, and it's so yummy. I love it. I love his lip scrubs. So yes, this is probably the first Jeffree Star release that I've ever bought on the day that it released. Normally with his eyeshadow palettes, I usually kind of wait till like the second or even sometimes the third restock just because I want to see what other reviews look like, and I don't usually want to deal with the whole online ordering and selling out in an hour type of crap. But now that we have a Morphe here in Houston, that kind of gives me a little bit of an advantage because they actually stock them in store the day that they go on sale online, which I think is pretty awesome. So I have this, and I figured why not go ahead and knock out 3 looks with this palette. I know there's a lot of hype around it. I'm really excited about it. I love the colors in here, and I know a lot of people that are really excited for it too. So I figured I'd go ahead and take advantage of having it a little earlier and just knock out 3 looks so that you guys can see what it looks like in action. I know that it has sold out now online. It was still in stock as of like earlier when I first got home and started filming this, but now it's like Friday night and it's out of stock now. I will say if you have a Morphe store near you, I would call them, maybe see if they have any left in their store, because my husband was telling me that at my store, one of the girls was saying that they had received plenty of stock, so like she felt comfortable that they were gonna be able to, you know, handle everybody that was there to buy it. Now, that might have only been like a day's worth of stock. I don't know, but you know, just a thought. If you're really, really dying for it and you weren't able to get it, try calling your local Morphe store if you have one. And I think they're also sold on Beautylish. I always forget. It does retail for $52 if you don't know that. So I have used this palette now for 3 different looks, so I do have a good feeling for how a lot of these shadows perform. There's literally only 3 shadows, potentially even 2, because I kind of used the lighter shade. Yeah, there's only 2 shadows that I didn't use at all in my looks today. So I do have a good feeling for how this palette performs and what I think of it. So I'll go ahead and tell you guys that. I'll also show you guys clips of what the palette looked like before I used it, as well as some swatches while I'm talking, because you know I did all that earlier. So the shadows are very, very soft. Many of them have a lot of kind of powdery kick up, which I feel is sometimes the case with his palettes. Like I think I remember the Thirsty palette, that lighter, like the blues and the greens and all that. I feel like those kind of can be a little bit powdery, but not all of his shadows are. These definitely are very powdery. It's not a bad thing. I don't really fault a palette for that. Usually if you get a lot of kick up in the pan, what I like to do is just try to keep dipping back into that extra powder when you're kind of dipping back in. That way you're not wasting as much. There's definitely some different formulas in here. Right here, you've clearly got a kind of chunky, more almost glittery formula. It's not a pressed glitter, but there's definitely chunky glitter in it. This metallic and this metallic and this metallic are all kind of like a softer formula. You really get a lot on your finger when you pick them up if you just swipe your finger in there. But you can kind of see now that I've used my palette, you can kind of see they look a little beat up. The stars are pretty much gone or like indented. So they definitely are very soft. But then you have ones like this one and this one right here, which seem to be like a harder, I guess more of like a satiny metallic type of shade. Those I felt like you kind of had to layer up a little bit. Use your finger to swipe it or use a wet brush. I really don't feel like you're ever going to get the true impact that they're intending when you use a dry brush for shimmers. I really do like the variety of tones that you get here with this palette. I like the fact that you can kind of go softer and more pastel. I like that I can get something kind of fun and bright and vibrant. This is very spring to me. And you can do something really smoky, which is kind of what I did for my second look. You got a little glitter aspect, so you got a lot of variety. Overall, I really do love this palette. I personally love the color story in here. I know that blue is not for everybody, but as you can see, it's not always just straight 80s blue. You can get some really gorgeous tones and beautiful looks out of this palette. Speaking of which, if you don't already follow my friend Annette at Annette's Makeup Corner, I highly recommend you following her because I know she ordered this palette and she loves to do 10 looks, 1 palette, and I know she's gonna do one with this palette. You don't want to miss it. She gets really creative, but she does a nice variety from like very basic and easy look to like really complicated or like avant-garde kind of looks. Definitely a lot of fun. So I gave you 3 looks here. Go check out hers once she gets it and has her video up. I don't know, it'd probably be maybe later this week before she gets her video up, but definitely go check her out because you're definitely going to enjoy her looks because I can't wait to watch them myself. So that's a little plug for my friend. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first look. All right, so to start out this first look and all the 3 looks, I used my MAC paint pot in Painterly and I left it tacky on the lid. So the first shade I'm going into for this look is I'm Cold, and I'm using it on a fluffy brush and just working it through the crease. These pastel shades do need to be built up, but they do build up nicely and you can see how pretty it turns out. And then I decided to go ahead and connect it to the lower lash line. And as you saw from the clip, I'm doing the blown out lower lash line look. I'm telling you guys, I'm obsessed with this look. So I'm just working that blue shade underneath the lower lash line, and then I start really working it out with an even fluffier brush so that it can be a little bit more diffused. And I just keep working it to the outer portion towards my cheekbone until I like the way it looks. I didn't go as blown out with this look. Then going into Blue Blood on a more detailed blending brush, I'm adding this more directly into the crease area and then just kind of lightly blending it into I'm Cold, but again, following the same pattern of in the crease, a little bit winged out, and then all the way underneath. And then I went into Power. I'm still using that same brush, but I'm using a really light hand here. So you can see I'm just barely depositing any color because I just wanted almost like a shadow in the crease, just to add a little bit of depth. And then going into Cullinan, I'm using it on my finger first just to cover the entire lid. But I did decide to go in with a wet brush just so that it could really be a vibrant white and also so I could be a little bit more precise at the crease area. And once I'm finished with that, I went into Ice Tray and I'm literally just kind of tapping this over the outer portion of the lid just to kind of make it a little bit of a bluish tone. And then I tapped a little bit of Entitled over the top of it because I just felt like it was too blue, so I needed to kind of bring in a little bit of teal. Then going back into Cullinan, I'm just brightening up that inner portion a bit and mixing it in the middle. And then back into Blue Blood, I'm just kind of finessing that crease area so that it's a soft blend. And then again with Power, I'm just adding a little bit extra to the outer corner so it has a bit more depth out there. And then whatever's left on the brush, I'm dragging through the crease. Back into Cullinan again, I decided to use this as my highlighter, and I absolutely love this shade as a highlighter. It is so beautiful. And then of course, I'm popping it in the inner corner as well, dragging it under and a bit above. With a liner brush, I'm using Power to kind of define that lower lash line a bit more. I don't want it to be too harsh, so I am going to go back over the top of it with Blue Blood, just using that same liner brush, but it helps just kind of diffuse the color a little bit and make it more blue. For the waterline, I'm using Prance from ColourPop's, just a nice pastel blue, and then I'm doing mascara and lashes off camera. I'm using the Lily Lashes in the shade Gaia. Now to finish off with the lip, I figured I would use my Nudes bundle. So I decided that this look would look best with a really deep color. So I picked Tasty, and I absolutely love this combination. This is a beautiful lip color, first off. It's so gorgeous. So this is the finished first look. And now moving into the second look, definitely a deeper, very vibrant blue look. Of course, I'm using my MAC paint pot again. And for this look, I kind of tried out a lot of the lighter shades. So I first tried Priceless, which as you can see, doesn't really show up very well on me. And then I jumped into Untouchable, which you can see that kind of pinky tone a bit more, but it's really just kind of setting my brow bone area. It's not doing too much here. Then I jumped into Celebrity Skin, which you finally are able to see a bit better. So I'm just working that into the crease, and then I'm winging it out a little bit on the outer portion and kind of dragging it under the lower lash line just a little bit. And then I'm jumping straight into Undertaker with a very dense flat brush. And I'm just packing this onto the inner and outer portion of the eye. When I originally started this look, I was planning on doing this as a halo eye. So as you can see, I'm basically leaving a little bit of blank space in the center of the lid. But quite honestly, you could just fill the entire lid in because that's what I ended up doing in the end. And then once I have that down, I'm just kind of working that little brush back and forth to softly buff out the edges of that dark shade. And then I went back in with that little blending brush and again, just worked a little bit more of that color in, really worked on blending it into the Celebrity Skin shade. Then I went ahead and jumped down to the lower lash line since it was just going to repeat what was on the lid. I'm just adding Undertaker with a thick pencil brush. Right now, again, I'm leaving a little space in the center, but that's not necessary for the future. And I'm just kind of blending that out with the pencil brush. Then jumping into Celebrity Skin with just a little bit of a fluffier brush, I'm buffing that underneath the dark blue shade. And then adding glitter glue on the lid. So right now I'm starting by just putting it in the center of the lid. You guys will see I'll add more later. And then I jumped into Ocean Ice and just popped this into the center area. I was really hoping it would have stood out as being a bit brighter. That was kind of what I was going for with the whole halo eye thought, but as you can see here, I'm starting to look at it and realize that it's just not working as a halo eye. So I decided to add the glitter glue to the rest of the lid area and then top it with Ocean Ice. So literally the entire lid is covered with that dark blue sparkly shade. Then I jumped into Blue Monday with my little detail brush and just kind of lightly buffed this into the crease area. This blue went really nicely with the Ocean Ice shade, so I kind of wanted to tie that in a little better. And then with Undertaker, I'm just fixing that lower lash line where I'd left the kind of open space. And then also adding some Blue Monday to that lower lash line, just using the same pencil brush, kind of just adding it right on top of the dark blue. Now just buffing away the fallout because believe me, there was a lot. And then going into Cullinan, I'm of course adding this as my inner corner highlight and I'm bringing it under and above just because I like to do that. I also decided to very lightly tap this over the center portion of the lid. So this did kind of give me that halo effect. It worked really nicely just tapping it over the top. And then I'm using a black navy from Laura Mercier in the waterline and mascara and lashes off camera. These are the Yummy Gummy Go Banana lashes. For lips on this one, I did Birthday Suit, and then I topped it with the Cherry Crush gloss, which is one of the wet cherry glosses from Lime Crime. And this is the finished second look. Definitely very smoky, but also kind of still bright blue. And now into the third and final look. Of course, lids are primed with the MAC paint pot. And for this look, the first shade I'm jumping into is Wealthy. I'm really just using this to set the brow bone area. That's pretty much the only purpose of this shade for me. Then jumping straight into Minty, I'm just using this through the crease area so you can see how sheer it is with a fluffy brush. But again, just like the first look, it layers really nicely. And if you were using a more detailed brush, it would stand out a bit more. I just wanted kind of a soft diffused color. And again, I'm kind of winging it out just a little bit on the outer portion, nothing too crazy. Then jumping into Flourishing, I think this is probably one of my favorite colors in the palette. I'm using a bit of a denser blending brush and I'm really still working this into the crease area, blending it into that minty shade and then winging it out a little bit. I also went ahead and just added this color to the outer portion of the lid area. Then jumping into Cremated with my little detailed blending brush. Just like with the first look, I'm very softly adding this color into the crease area. I added a bit more than I did with the first look, but I really just wanted that kind of shadow because I am going to cut the crease with this look, so I want something to add a little bit of depth once that concealer's down. Then I went back into Flourishing with that same brush and just blended over the top of it so that it didn't have kind of like a grayish tone. I wanted it to keep that kind of bright teal color. And again with Minty, blending over the top of that, just blending back and forth. Really with these blue shades, that's the best thing you can do is take your time and blend. And then I'm just cutting the crease with my Tarte Shape Tape, just cutting it a little over halfway, just kind of leaving a bit of a diagonal with that teal green shade on the outside and then tapping it out with my finger. And then I'm covering that area with Entitled. I'm starting with my finger just to kind of quickly lay down the shade, but then I am switching over to a wet flat brush so that I can really get that color close to the crease area, but it also really brightens up the color. You can see just how vibrant and shiny it looks once you use a wet brush over the top. Then back into Flourishing, I'm adding this on a liner brush to the lower lash line, doing kind of a thick line. I'm going almost all the way to the end. I decided to leave a little bit on the inside and just bring in that Entitled shade. I thought it would be a fun little tie-in from the top. So I'm just using a small wet liner brush to add just a tiny little dash of that at the very inner part of the lash line. And I did go over the top of it with Cullinan just because it wasn't quite bright enough on its own. And then I'm just using Flourishing again, but this time on a pencil brush to kind of soften that lower lash line a bit more and buff it down a bit. And then with a fluffier flat brush, I'm using Minty and just kind of adding a kind of blown out, not as blown out as the first look, but it's such a pale shade, you can really kind of blow it out a bit. Then back into Cullinan for the inner corner highlight. I started by trying to just add it as a little dot, but you guys know I like to bring it up, what can I say? And then mixing Flourishing and Cremated together, I'm just trying to deepen up that outer corner a little bit. This time I'm doing winged liner off camera with my lashes. These are the Golden Gatsby Sittin' Pretty from LA Splash. I did forget to do it on camera, but I did mix a blue and green liner together for my waterline. And then for the lips, I'm using a Celebrity Skin from Jeffree Star. And that is the third and final look. Alright guys, so that is 3 looks back to back. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It definitely was a lot of fun playing around with this palette. There are so many options here and I definitely can see so many more. So if you want to see more from this palette on my channel, just let me know in the comments below. I can maybe just incorporate it in a Throwback Thursday, you know, because I don't care if those videos are new or old palettes. I just do it for what you guys want to see more of. Or I could do maybe a palette bingo with it. You guys let me know what you want to see. Palette bingo might be fun with this one. So yeah, let me know what you guys want to see in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you are not already a subscriber. I would love to have you as a part of my little nerdy family. And that's it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.